Tuesday, December 27th of 2022, right through the end of the year, Saturday, December 31st. So on Tuesday, the 27th, I flew back in the morning from New York, where I was visiting with my parents for the holidays, back to our Orlando office. Now, as I usually do, at the airport and on the plane, I was doing work on my computer and catching up on emails and administrative work. Got to Orlando and then was picked up, and in the car was having some conversations with my administrative staff and preparing for various staff meetings I had to have once I got back. Got back midday, had a quick lunch and meetings with various staff people and catching up work on my desk and unpacking, and also getting some Christmas cards and gifts that had come in during the days that I was away and looking at those. At 2:20, I had a radio interview on the Todd Starnes show. And then I met with our executive team about a number of plans. We're getting things ready for Washington, D.C. and the March for Life activities, some calendar meetings. At 3:30, I had to go into the TV studio and tape a Right Side Broadcasting production for Praying for America, and did additional work at my desk, meetings with staff, and unpacking the rest of the day. In terms of some of that desk work, some of the things I had to do were I was accepting and approving statements of support from various other groups and leaders that wanted to make them publicly, preparing for an upcoming election training Zoom meeting that we're going to be having, preparing for a big leaders meeting of national pro-life leaders that we will have at our headquarters in February, working on various interviews that are being set up for me and articles that are being done, and some articles that I am writing. Did some work on that, as well as approving various email blasts to our entire list. So that took up the whole day on Tuesday, the 27th of December. Moving to Wednesday, the 28th, well, that's the day when I was awakened by one of my associates in the wee hours of the morning to tell me that my dad had passed away, and so I had to right away make arrangements to fly back to New York. Got the flights, talked to my relatives on the phone, and started making arrangements for that. Arranged to be picked up in the late morning, and then was picked up. But first went into the TV studio and did a live broadcast, a prayer broadcast. I did a prayer broadcast, and then went to the airport working on various things on the computer. Some, of course, obviously approving some wording for announcements of what had happened, and some emails to go out to our Priests for Life family, and also working on a couple of articles that I had to write, and then, of course, being in contact with the funeral home and other arrangements that had to be set up. And, of course, then I got home and was with the family the rest of the day and started to figure out what had to be done. My plane, unfortunately, was delayed quite a bit, so I didn't have the initial amount of time that I expected to have there with them that night. Then on December the 29th, Thursday, I started out early in the morning, of course, with my family members, making the arrangements. My brother and I went over to the funeral home, had the meeting with them, and many of you have been through this, of course. Went over to the flower shop and to the restaurant that we'll go to after the funeral mass, and got the obituary wording approved, finalized, got my dad's documents, Navy papers, so I'll have the military honor at the funeral, communicated with the pastor at my home parish, and with some of my Priests for Life priests who are going to come down and celebrate the Mass, and then, of course, just time at home with my mom and my brother, and we had various visitors come by. I had a couple of interviews that had been already scheduled that I was able to do as well. Special prayer call at 12 noon, which was very consoling because various members of the RNC and the different political efforts that I work on throughout the year got on the phone and prayed over me, and it was a beautiful time. I led a devotion, shared some scriptural reflections with them. And that was at noon, and then later on at 4 o'clock, I had a very extensive interview, about 90 minutes, with a reporter, Lynn Vincent, who wanted to delve into the details of what the Vatican did against me. And so we talked about that at great length. Those who are enemies of mine within the church are not at all going to like the things that come out in that interview. And nevertheless, they're all true, and they are said with the all due respect, but the need to get the story out there is important. Did some emails, had to write my note from the pastoral director in my role as a pastoral director of Rachel's Vineyard and Silent No More. And then my brother and I had to get some additional things together here at the house in preparation for the funeral arrangements for my dad. On Friday, December 30th, what did that day hold? Well, of course, another visit over to the funeral home to bring them some additional things they needed, work on some upcoming trips that have to be confirmed and planned, responding, of course, throughout the day to good wishes from various people, some of whom came by to visit my mom and my brother and me. So we visited with some friends here at the house as we continue to process through the grief of this situation. I had to prepare some articles for publication, finalized an article I was invited to write for Newsmax regarding the other situation with the Vatican, and that took up the whole day and evening of Friday the 30th. Saturday the 31st, New Year's Eve, one of my favorite days of the year. Of course, I spent time here with the family, taking care of what they need, and also worked on some things for my staff, like some postings of regular reports that they have to get ready, and they needed some input from me, some input about upcoming trips again and the schedule going into 2023, and did some errands, stopping over my cousin's house and the restaurant where we're going to have the meal after the funeral, and getting some things at the store, various errands like that. And I was tired. I went to bed early. However, it was New Year's Eve, so I had set my alarm to get up just before midnight. And my mom and I watched the countdown and rang in the new year together with the consolation of the Lord. So those were the days then between December 27th and December 31st of 2022. Thanks so much for keeping up on these daily diaries, and we will talk to you soon.